Hey, it's Jeremy from jeremy.net. So, this piece that I'm working on here, these are layouts for a large scale painting I'm doing. This is a wedding present for my wife, and it's a long time in coming, so I didn't start it till almost our 1 year anniversary. But it was what she told me she wanted for a wedding present was a big painting of this woman in front of a giant fire breathing dragon. So I am, this is going to be a long work in progress because this painting is a really big one, and at the same time, I'm continuing to work on my comic book Morningstar, so I'm just going to try and work on this painting kind of here and there where I can find time, or like in between when I finish the issues. Maybe I'm just going to try and pick like 1 weekend a month to work on it a little bit. But this is going to be a big project. It's going to take me a long time, so I'll keep you posted with videos of how the progress is coming, now and again. Now, to the side you can see a bunch of thumbnails that I sketched out. And, these are working out all the details of the piece, working out the major composition, the balance of light and darks, the silhouette that the dragon on the piece makes, the position of the woman, all those things that are going to solidify the final form of the picture. Along with that are a whole bunch of little details. Like you see a couple of dragon mouths there, and the dragon's head at a couple of different positions in the sketches on the left hand side of the screen. I did way more sketches than that. Trying to work out the different mouth positions I wanted, the actual facial features of the dragon, how much it was going to look like a snake versus sort of like a bearded dragon, which was some of the reference I pulled up to look at. Trying to find a way to make a dragon that didn't just look like every other fantasy dragon. Trying to give it a little bit of character and personality and make it feel kind of my own. But also, since I don't really do a lot of dragon, sword and sorcery fantasy art, I haven't really drawn a whole lot of dragons. So I also pulled some reference in terms of like looking at, bat wings and other different animal wings to figure out how I wanted the wings for this creature to be structured. Finally deciding to go for a shape that was a lot more like a winged lizard than... you can see that there's another thumbnail that's here now from an earlier session of thumbnails where the dragon had feet. And in this one, I went more for like a winged serpent than giving it, than a lizard look with arms and feet and such. That just seemed to fit more anatomically for what I was going for. Now, I even did, you can see the tiniest corner of it, and I really should have done a better job of capturing a shot of it. I did a little color thumbnail, because I find that nowadays, working out color thumbnails, once I get my tonal thumbnails done, really helps me finalize my thought process before moving into what we see here, which is the layout. Now, the point of me doing layouts for this, or for any piece, is that when I'm trying to work out what my piece is going to be, I find that while I'm keeping the proportion, when I'm doing the thumbnails, I'm keeping the final proportion of the piece in mind, but those are just an estimate. I just have a box that's in the relative proportions of it. It's not the exact proportions of the piece. The reason for that is because in the past, when I've done sketches to work out details for a piece, and I'm starting with the exact frame, the exact proportion, or the exact size of the final piece, I start distorting things. I will squish things or stretch them to try and make them fit into that framework of that box. And then I end up with anatomy that gets really wonky, or it's just distorted proportions and perspective. It doesn't come out well. So I find that if I doing my thumbnails in a general proportion and really lock down exactly what I want compositionally, then the layout stage is all about transposing that composition to the exact frame. So now when I come in and I'm doing my layout drawing, I've got a frame that's set in there. It's a really lightly printed on the page, a really light frame on there that includes a square showing where the piece is divided in quarters. And that's the exact proportion of the final piece is going to be. And From there, I can sit down, and this whole point is about taking that composition and saying, all right, what needs to move where in order to maintain the integrity of the composition I worked out while still fitting the exact proportions. And in this particular piece, working out those exact proportions is a bit more important because this painting is it's going to be the largest painting I've ever done. It's going to be across 4 canvases, 4 18 by 24 canvases in a vertical composition. So this is a pretty ambitious ambitious project for me. But it also means that the crosshairs that are running across the thumbnail that you see to the left, those aren't just me. I'll usually make those no matter what piece I'm doing to kind of get a general sense of how the balance of the composition is going. But in this specific case, those lines are going to be where the canvases are going to be separating. So I have to also not just think about the entire composition of the whole piece, but thinking about these breaks, I want to make sure that none of the major elements, the woman's head, the dragon's head, any important joints, I want to make sure that nothing that is critical to this composition falls along the lines of those canvas divisions. So it really behooves me to be very conscientious about working out my composition here. Ever since I've gotten into the habit of thumbnailing the hell out of my pieces, like all the thumbnails that you saw just off the left of the screen, those are just a few of them. Like I probably did a good 10 pages worth of drawings trying out compositions, trying out different executions of that, as well as working out all these different details that I mentioned before, different mouths, different body types, studies of wings, studies of different bearded dragons and different types of lizards, trying to figure out what I want. Ever since I've gotten into the habit of doing just a ton of those types of sketches, I find that I have fewer and fewer problems when I sit down and try to move to my layout phase. But, in theory, I could, once I get a thumbnail that I really, really like, I could skip the layout phase and go right to the final drawing, but I would probably end up regretting it. Because this is sort of my last chance to really pre-viz or pre-visualize the piece, to really make sure everything lines up the way I want it to. And in the case of this particular project, the final layout drawing is really also important because I'm going to, instead of using a projector or transfer paper to transfer my drawing to my canvases, what I'm going to be doing is scanning this drawing in at a high resolution, and then I'm going to print it out in tiles, and I'm going to glue those tiles of the drawing to the canvases and paint directly over them. Because it's another thing that I find very frustrating when I'm working on projects is when I get things just where I want them in a thumbnail, and then when I go down to do the final piece, there's something about the magic of that thumbnail, like a little curve of a figure just right, or an eye shape, or just one line that I cannot reproduce that really captured what I was going for in the piece. And for something this large, there's so many little details that I could lose or I could botch in the process of transferring it to the larger canvas. I said, screw it. I've done this before with other paintings where I just take the drawing that I want and I will just glue it down and paint on top of it. I thought, I'm going to try it for this one. And you'll see when I post videos of it, it does look a little weird because you can actually see the place where the papers are glued to the canvas. But as I paint over them and work on the piece, I think those divisions will disappear. And I think overall it'll end up working out okay. That's it for now. You can check out my website, jeremy.net. That's GERIMI.net. That's where you can buy my comic books and artwork. You can also sign up for my free weekly newsletter to get a behind-the-scenes look at my creative process, updates on new comic books and artwork releases, and upcoming comic book convention appearances. Okay, go be creative.